Serious. What is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? Story 1. I was living in Boston. I woke up at 3 a.m. or so by my cat jumping on my bed and curling in between my calf muscles and going to sleep. My cat would do this every night since I was 5 years old. That was his spot. It was something I was very familiar with. Thing is, my cat was living with my parents on the West Coast, so I couldn't understand what the hell I just felt. But I knew it was my cat. I just figured I was dreaming. Got a call from my parents the following morning that my cat died around midnight the previous night. 3 hours behind since I was on the East Coast. Guess that was my cat traveling to Boston to come see me one last time. Edit, after so many replies, I gotta say this. Really, I wasn't dreaming. I remember it quite well. I said maybe I was dreaming because I'm doubtful of myself, but thinking back, yeah, I was wide awake and realized my experience. Despite being a fun believer in ghosts, suspension of disbelief, I haven't had any other experiences other than this. This is my own experience, and I expect and appreciate the doubts, but call it what you will. Story 2. Maybe around age 14, early 90s. We were traveling from Texas up to Tacoma, Washington. We were about out of money, almost out of gas, no food, stuck in Chico, California. I sat in the car while Mom took my younger sister to a restroom at a gas station. I was riddled with anxiety about her situation and looking down. The car door opened and I looked up. A lady that looked like a brown-haired Brady mom sat in the seat and faced me. She said, "It seems like you're down on your luck. Take this and give it to your mom. Tell her to pay it forward someday to someone who needs it." I looked down into my hand and there was a $100 bill. I looked up and she had disappeared. Nowhere in the parking lot, just vanished. I cried. When my mom came back, I told her what happened, and she cried. We got gas. There was a guy selling oranges on the side of the road, and we bought a bag and went to a local park and had a part of the river with a little spillway dam and went swimming and ate oranges for a couple of hours before getting back on the road. I never saw the lady again, but she saved us, and we did make it up to Tacoma to start our new life. Thank you, stranger lady with invisible powers. We never forgot your kindness. Random acts of kindness like this are so great to hear about. If you have the ability to just help out a stranger with no expectation of thanks or anything, I recommend it. That kind of generosity is contagious and makes the world a better place. Story 3. In college, I was roommates with my childhood best friend for about 2 years. We were very trusting with each other. We would go into each other's rooms freely and grab whatever we needed. To borrow clothes, hairbrush, perfume, etc. No questions asked, just a knock if we were in the room to let each other know we were going in. Our rooms are across the hall from each other, with the hall facing the kitchen. So from the kitchen you could see down the hall where our rooms were. At the time, my friend had very long black hair, and she's very fair-skinned. One day I get home from work with my headphones in my ear talking to my mom about my day. I go into the kitchen to grab a snack. I see her walk out of her room and go into mine, leave my room and go back into hers. She looked like she just got out of the shower. Her hair was soaking wet and she was wrapped in a white towel. Her long, black, wet hair is what I distinctly remember. Also, she made no eye contact with me, but I didn't think it was weird. I didn't say anything to her since borrowing each other's stuff was normal. I'm still on the phone with my mom, so I don't think much of it. I grab my snack, hang out with my mom, and go into my room to watch TV. I figure she's getting ready to go somewhere and we'll talk later. About an hour passes and I go to the kitchen to clean the plate I ate on. I see her in the kitchen making something to eat and I tell her, "Hey, what did you grab from my room earlier? Did you find what you needed?" She looked at me like I was crazy and says, "What are you talking about?" So I say, "Yeah, earlier when I got home, I saw you go into my room and grab something. Did you get what you needed?" Sorry I didn't say hi, I was on the phone with my mom. She asked me if I'm sure I saw her. I said yes, 100%. She tells me to grab my phone and go to her car ASAP, that she needs to show me something. I had my phone on me and she grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter along with her purse and she drags me out the front door and into her car. She then tells me she got home maybe 5 minutes before we started talking. She had spent the night at her boyfriend's and hadn't been home all day. So she had no idea who I saw. I'll never forget the look on her face when she told me this. Complete fear and panic. She called the cops and they came along with the apartment manager. They checked the whole apartment and found no one, nothing amiss. And they were in there a while checking every nook and cranny. The manager got maintenance to change our locks and gave us new keys that day. My friend tells me that for a week she'd been hearing noises from her bathroom, like bottles moving, and when she went to check, she found nothing. I have no idea who I saw going in and out of our room, but it looked exactly like my friend. I don't drink or do drugs, not on meds. This was in 2014 and I still freak out when I think about it. Story 4. I had a recurring nightmare of a pitch-black parasite sucking the life out of me. Sometimes it waited for me in dark corners to go to bed. My cats always slept on my bed during that time. For me, it was a very stressful time. I got an itch at the place of my chest where I dreamed the parasite was sucking my life out of me. I got sick and felt a pea-sized lump. I went to my doctor and they ordered a biopsy of that lump. As it turns out, I had male breast cancer at the age of 28. After I got well again, the dream never came back and my cats slept in their places again and not on my bed. The dream was creepy enough. What it made for me were my cats protecting me. Isn't it weird the kind of stuff that animals and your own subconscious brain can sense that you wouldn't think possible? Like, I don't personally see something supernatural here, just something natural that is absolutely amazing. Glad it was caught early enough and that you're okay, though I'm sorry you lost kitty sleep cuddles. Story 5. I've shared this before, but it still confuses the hell out of my family. Edit. This happened last year. I copy and pasted it from my original post. The beginning of the story says, last night, but this was almost a year ago. We moved out of that house about 6 months after this happened. My husband recently took an overnight job to help us out during COVID. He's only been there about 2 weeks and working evening/overnight, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Last night was no different. He left home around 8:15 p.m. Our daughter, age 11, and I decided to make it a movie night. Around 11 p.m., I heard keys in my back door and the usual sounds my husband makes when he comes home. I creeped out to the kitchen to make sure it was him, and it was. He told me he needed to grab his knee compression sleeve, walked down the hall, said hi to our daughter as he passed the living room and went upstairs. He came back down, gave me a kiss, and left again. We finished our movie and went to bed. In the morning when he got home, I made a joking comment about him forgetting his knee sleeve. He was genuinely confused as I recall the previous night. Our daughter confirmed everything I said, and he still was acting confused. I pulled up our security motion camera on the phone to show him when he popped in quick, but there was no footage from the night before, or any other night of him coming home after he's left for work. My daughter and I both heard him, saw him, and touched him, but he was never home during that time. Nothing else out of the ordinary happened that night. We seriously have no idea what happened. Edit. To clarify, there is footage of that night, but it doesn't show him coming home at that time. The camera was on the back porch, not inside the house. We had 2 carbon monoxide detectors, 1 on each floor of the house. We moved out a few months later for unrelated reasons. 6. My Nana, great-grandma, and mom were very close but lived overseas from one another my whole life. They talked on the phone every Sunday, but because it was an international call, it was extremely expensive, so they took turns calling every Sunday at 8 a.m. to make the cost equal. However, due to a 4-minute difference in clocks, Nana always ended up calling at 8:04. Also, the caller ID never showed up. Mom called on a Sunday, Nana died on a Tuesday. The following week, we were sitting at the table eating breakfast, and Mom notices it's 7:50 a.m. Nana would have been calling any minute. She gets emotional, I comfort her. Then at 8:04 a.m., the mother effing phone rings. The caller ID reads unknown caller. We look at each other like, what is this, some sort of sick joke? She answers, there's nothing but static at the other line, and some garbled voice recording. The only decipherable words in it are, we hope you enjoy your trip to paradise. Click, phone cuts off. Absolutely no explanation for that one. Still baffles me to this day. Edit. I've been wanting to tell this story for years now, but every time I find a creepy/inexplicable thread, it gets buried. So glad people are finally hearing this one, lol. Some have said maybe someone was playing an elaborate prank, but I'd prefer to see it as Nana sending us one last hurrah. She really loved my mom and I a lot, as we did her too. She was a really kooky lady, and this ending was extremely fitting of her. I mean, I feel like there could be some explanation, but I sure don't know what it is. And as for the folks saying that it could be a prank, who would know the mom and Nana that well, and also be heartless enough to make a prank out of the loss of a loved one that soon? Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 7. Right after quarantine started, I got a package in the mail. It was addressed to my name and my address and contained 1 pink starburst and nothing else. To this day, I have no idea who sent it or why. The return address was a vacant office space across the country. Edit. I did not eat it. The postmark matched the address, I believe, but it's been so long I'm not positive. There is one friend I think could have done it, but she has since passed away. It was not sent from overseas. It uses my full name, which I don't go by for anything except legal documentations. I have a nickname I use almost exclusively. We'd only been in this house for 8 months before I got this, and we didn't/don't really know our neighbors. And my Amazon account is under my husband's information. And thank you for the awards. Story 8. My girlfriend and I are in a long-distance relationship. We typically take turns traveling between each other's countries, Australia and Canada. About 2 years ago, it was my turn to travel over to Australia to stay with her and her mom. For a bit of background, my girlfriend's room was built as an extension/add-on to their garage, so to get to it, you had to walk through their garage to get to her room. About a couple weeks into my trip over there, I wake up at around 1 a.m. and the room is just glowing red. I look up at the ceiling and I see this black figure crawling through the ceiling. It moved in such an inhuman way, almost like it was breaking every one of its bones to move. I started screaming, which wakes up my girlfriend, and she looks up at the ceiling and starts to scream as well. Instinctively, I grab my pillow and whip it at the figure. The next thing I know, everything went black and I'm waking up a few hours later. My girlfriend is fast asleep, so I think it was just some weird dream. At that point, I have to go to the washroom. So I walk through the garage and try to quietly open the garage door to get into the main house. Previously, her mom had mentioned that she was getting annoyed with us staying up late at night and going through the garage door to use the washroom. Since her mom's room was down the garage door hallway, each time we would open it, the door would click loudly and wake her up. So I'm standing there at the garage door and I try to open it as quietly as possible. As I turn the handle and the door clicks as I push it open, her mom just starts screaming at the top of her lungs. I thought I was out of rage for waking her up, so I immediately close the door and speed walk back to my girlfriend's room. I climb into bed and gently nudge her awake to tell her that her mom is screaming. She gets up and goes to see whether her mom was still angry and try to de-escalate the situation. About 20 minutes goes by and my girlfriend comes back into the room completely silent. She asks me if I saw the room glowing red earlier as well as a figure in the ceiling. I say yes, and she goes wide-eyed and says that she thought it was just a dream too. She then says that her mom wasn't screaming at me. Apparently when I opened the door, it did wake her up. But when she woke up, there was a black figure standing at the foot of her bed and it was slowly moving towards her. She then experienced a blackout as well and was woken up by my girlfriend checking in on her. Yeah, the entire house slept with the lights on for months after that. Edit. Thank you for the awards, kind strangers, as well as the emotional support. I mean, if this story is the truth, I'm not sure what to even say about that. I guess we didn't get confirmation about the girlfriend also seeing the thing in the red room, just her mom. And I feel like if the mom had sleep paralysis that the boyfriend knew about and had a dream about of himself, well, that would have been included. So from what we have to go on, that's creepy as hell. Story 9. When I was in high school, I would always be the first to arrive home out of my family, having the entire house to myself. I've never been superstitious or someone who's scared easily, and the hour I had alone was my favorite time of the entire day. My bedroom is upstairs, and one day when I got home from school, I placed my bag away and started up the stairs. About halfway, I stopped because I thought I heard something coming from upstairs, so I stayed and listened. I heard a very slow rendition of the melody from Ring Around the Rosie, crystal clear, coming from my bedroom. I was 100% sure I was the only one home and I had absolutely no device that could be playing music unprompted, especially Ring Around the Rosie. I froze in fear and listened for about 15 seconds to make sure I was really hearing it, which I was. I just turned back down the steps and waited around in the living room for my family to get home before I went back upstairs. I went in my room a few hours later and there was nothing out of the ordinary. I know it's not a very climactic story, but it's something I think about every now and then. I never told anyone about it because why would I? But that was the first time something truly strange happened to me. Story 10. Was camping alone in a small one-person tent, all snug and secure in the tent. I went to sleep. Was broken by a clap of thunder at 3 a.m. to discover both the inner and outer tent was wide open. That was freaky. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.